Hi, Maria here. Welcome to my channel. Today I've got 6 new fragrances, 2024 releases, one that's a little bit older, but they are new gems and I am so excited to share them with you. But before I get started, if you haven't subscribed, just go ahead and hit that button. Join the Weird Wonderful family. It would be amazing to have you part of the community, and let's get into this. So I'm going to start with the oldest one, and this one was actually released in 2017. The rest are new. So full disclosure, So Avant reached out to me. They sent me these fragrances, and I have an affiliate code for you for 10% off of any So Avant or Mind Game fragrances. So I'll leave everything linked down below, but they were kind enough to send over a whack load of fragrances for me to test out and share with you. So the first one was the House of Oud, and this one is Empathy. Now, I have always wanted a House of Oud fragrance, just simply because of the bottles, but I've never gotten one. And so I'm so excited. So I have smelt quite a few. I've smelt Bon Bon. That one is amazing. Like, I love that one. So Avant has that in a 3-bottle coffret set. What about Pop? It's like a popcorn. You get popcorn to begin with, and then it just gets quite caramelly and sweet. Keep Glazed is gorgeous. So many of them, actually, I really do enjoy. They're just fun fragrances, but the one that really caught my eye recently is Empathy by House of Oud. This bottle is absolutely gorgeous. So this base is rose gold. This is hand painted, which I absolutely love. And I love the fact that you pull it out. This is the base. Like in the past, I thought that this was the perfumes, but this is actually the perfume. Now, what's cool about this one, and all of these fragrances I've worn a few times just to really get a good feel for them. This fragrance is characterized by, I would say, raspberry and tobacco, which to me is the weirdest combination, but it just works. There's a teeny bit of floral in this, but for the most part, what you're getting is raspberry or fruity tobacco, and I love it. This also has oud, but the oud is way down in the dry down, and it's not a very strong oud. So for an oud beginner, this is absolutely perfect. At first, when I spray it on, I think strawberry. So it comes across a little bit strawberry to begin with, but as it dries down, it's just fruity. So strawberry, raspberry, some sort of red, delicious fruit. This has fruity notes in general as well. But paired with the tobacco, I don't know what the deal is, but it's just such a gorgeous fragrance. So I imagine an uber fruity tobacco in the bag, and you open it up and you smell it like a cherry tobacco or some sort of fruity tobacco. If that was possible, this would be what this is. So I imagine I've actually never smoked a hookah, nor have I smelt that, although I have smelt vape pens, like, so kind of almost a humid smelling tobacco mixed with sweet fruity notes. And I'm just absolutely in love with this. The longevity is moderate, so I'd say it lasts about 6 hours on the skin, but it's so fun. So I love this one. Like I said, the Bon Bon Pop, first of all, the bottle is just gorgeous. I'll talk about it a different day. Maybe I'll talk about the ones that I've experienced, but I love this one. You have to like tobacco though, so it's a little bit different as opposed to something like Keep Glazed, which smells almost like a mango smoothie. That one is delicious. What about Pop? Like I said, is popcorn to begin with, but a super uber caramel popcorn, and you definitely get a lot of that caramel, dries down to that caramel. And then Bon Bon Pop, I have a sample of that one, and I just love that one. To me, it comes across almost like a candied, like there's some peach in it, there's some coconut, but to me, it comes across kind of that candy coating. That's how it smells. So super sweet, delectable. This one's got a little bit more intrigue and mystery, which I absolutely love. So I am so excited to have this as my first House of Oud. Like, yes. Now, as far as 2024 releases, I am going to share 3 Banana Republic fragrances. The first one is Orris Vanille. Now, this fragrance has a lot of quite balsamic or resinous notes. So it has juniper, pepper, bergamot, and lemon. In the heart, it has orris, incense, and apple blossom. And then it finishes with sandalwood, vanilla, and amberwood. It sounds as if it would be uber resinous, slightly balsamic. And although in the opening, you do get a little bit of that balsamic feel, I think because of the juniper. Juniper smells to me really fresh. It's a little bit sharp, but I happen to absolutely love juniper. So, and it's also, to me, juniper has a sweetness that's really gorgeous. So this opens up with juniper for sure. Then I start to get some of that orris, the vanilla, and maybe some sandalwood. So I don't really get any incense. I don't get major floral, although there is a floral component to this. It's quite smooth. It's got a sexy vibe, but it's not so sexy that you couldn't wear it during the day, especially in the wintertime. But it has a bit of a vibe of the Carolina Herrera Good Girl. So, you know, in the blue bottle. So it kind of reminds me of that. It's not the same by any means, but it's got that same sort of vibe. So that's not my favorite vibe. Like, I don't like Carolina Herrera, but I do like this one. So this one I need to spend a bit more time with. But if you're a fan of the Carolina Herrera, I think you'd really enjoy this one. And this one, the longevity on all the Banana Republic ones to me are moderate. So between 5 and 7 hours. They project for about 4, I would say, and then they get a little closer to the skin, and they could stay longer. Like, I know the next one I'm going to mention stays on the skin for definitely about 8. The next fragrance that I have for you by Banana Republic is Monday Rose. First of all, I really love these bottles. I think that they're so classy, and this pink one I think is probably my favorite. I just think it's gorgeous. Okay, so when I spray this one, I get a very similar vibe to Delina, but I would say it's a slightly fresher Delina, not like Delina a la Rose, because this still has some density to it, whereas a la Rose to me feels quite airy and very fresh. But I definitely get the bergamot when I first spray this, and I definitely get that lychee as well. Now, as this starts to dry down, you get that rose. There's some peony in here. In the base, you have moss, you've got some musk, amberwood, and caramel. So I really enjoy this. It is very similar to Delina to me. So as soon as I sprayed it, I thought, Delina. So definitely had that vibe. Whereas Orris Vanille, it wasn't like I automatically thought, oh, Carolina Herrera, Good Girl. In the deep dry down, I noticed that. On this one, I noticed that Delina kind of reference right away. Now, that said, there's a bit more sweetness, I would say, to this, and ever so slightly powdery to me. So I get a little bit of powderiness in this, maybe musky. I really enjoy this one. I think it's a very nice fragrance. I found that the longevity on this was definitely better than the Orris one. So this one gave me, I don't know, probably 8 hours, which to me is a decent amount of time, but it projected for about 5. So this is a fun fragrance to wear if you're a rose lover. Highly recommend, especially if you don't want to spend Delina prices. This is $105 US, and then I have a discount code. So this gives you that same sort of feel. There's kind of a fluffy tart rose that's very, very feminine, uber classy, and really it's a very, very nice fragrance. It doesn't last the same way as Parfums de Marly's Delina. It's not as long lasting. It's not identical to PDM's Delina, but it gives me that same vibe, and I love it. I love it. The next fragrance that I have from Banana Republic is Morning Jasmine. Now, to me, this is a weird name because there is no jasmine in this one. So I always think that that's weird when companies do that. Jasmine Wisp by Risasi does that too. However, that aside, I think that this is absolutely beautiful, and it doesn't really remind me of anything. This has raspberry leaf, pear, and bergamot in the opening. I get a little bit of pear. I don't notice any raspberry. This has rose, gardenia, and plum in the heart. I definitely get rose. I get rose more than gardenia. I don't really notice the plum. However, there is kind of a richness that comes from this fragrance. And to me, this is full on rose. So Monday Rose, it's more of a a brighter kind of fresh rose that smells Delina-esque, so a daytime rose, whereas this to me is a little bit more seductive and sensual, probably because of that plum, honestly. The base has vanilla orchid, patchouli, and cedarwood. I don't get a whole lot of like deep patchouli or anything like that. Maybe a hint of a woodiness. It's not heavy at all. So the woody aspect of this fragrance is definitely downplayed and just kind of a supporting role, essentially to that rose and kind of a sensual fruitiness to it. It's not, like, to me, fruity is not the main star of the show. It's definitely the rose, and it certainly is more of that sensual rose. So this is a great evening fragrance, in my opinion, or if you like a sexier rose fragrance, this definitely does the trick. And the wood in it almost feels a little bit oudy, which I honestly find cedar to have a similar quality to oud, where it's kind of a sweeter kind of almost humid feeling wood is what I get in this. So I really enjoyed this one as well. I think out of all three, this was my favorite, and the next was Monday Rose. Orris Vanille was my least favorite. Okay, so I'm saving the two most exciting ones for last, but the next fragrance I want to talk about is Whisper by Toomey. Now, first of all, I didn't even know that Toomey sold fragrances. I thought they just sold luggage. So I was really excited to see that they had a line. They've got a line of, I believe, 4 fragrances, all released this year. Now, the reason why I decided to go with this one is because AI the Great talked this one up so big time, and I'm like, I have to have it. Like, the way she talked about it, I'm like, this is amazing. I've got to check it out. Now, I'm not sold on it yet, but I'm not giving up hope because sometimes I have to sit with fragrances for a little bit. What I find this to be is, like, online it shows plum, rose, and moss, I believe. But on the actual website, it shows rose, geranium, and lychee in the opening. In the heart, it has orris, jasmine, absolute, and smoked amber. And then the base is bran absolute, oud, and isoe super. This feels like a really beautiful, fresh, slightly green, dewy rose, like a young rose. That's the smell I get. I get a bit of greenness in there. Probably the lychee kind of creates that tartness that's in this fragrance. I don't notice the jasmine. I don't really notice the orris, but I do get a hint of oud, which I really, really enjoy. This one feels more fresh than what I am enjoying these days. I like a little bit of mystery in the rose. That said, as this dries down, there is that little bit of oudiness that comes out. So this is one I need to sit more with. I'm not completely sold on it. I don't love it the way AI the Great loved it. And I wish that I was smelling what she smells. That said, I still think it's a very lovely rose fragrance, but it just doesn't knock it out of the park like the next fragrance that I'm going to talk about does. So beautiful rose fragrance. If you're a rose lover, you can't go wrong with this. So there's nothing wrong with it, but I was just somehow expecting a little bit more oud in it. Now that said, for an oud beginner, this is great, but I think part of it too is isoe super. Sometimes I struggle with it a little bit. It gets me here. So there's lots of fragrances that have isoe super in that don't bother me. This one bothers me a little bit. So that could be part of it. Like, it just kind of hits me right there and feels a little sharp. But like I said, beautiful kind of dewy young rose, just not positive this one is for me yet, but we'll see. I'll keep you posted. Now, what I was super excited about was Mind Games. And I also have a discount code for mindgames.com too. So 10% off of any Mind Game fragrance. Just so that you know, so avantgarde.com has a sale going on through the Black Friday time. And I think it's up to 30% off. Definitely worth checking out the fragrances. There's so many to choose from, but my coupon code also works for mindgames.com. I'm gonna start with the big package. So I got this lovely package and I wanted to show it to you because it's quite spectacular. You open it and you get the fragrance. You get 2 of the oils that are in the fragrance, a little card talking about it, and then you get some perfume sticks so that you can try out the different oils and whatnot. So I love the presentation. Like, as far as a Christmas gift, this would be absolutely stunning. Like, I would be so thrilled with something like this. And especially for perfume lovers, because they give you the little vials, a couple of the predominant notes in the fragrance. So I'm going to just sniff these oils. I thought I would wait until I was online with you guys to actually sniff the oils. The fragrance, I've worn it about 3 times now. So this is the patchouli. Okay, so that's cool. What I find is that I oftentimes think that I'm smelling something in a fragrance and I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if that's the patchouli or what. But this definitely is the patchouli. It actually reminds me of the patchouli in Vanilla Royale sugared patchouli. So it's spicy. To me, patchouli oftentimes, if it's not a dirty patchouli, comes across as actually spices. So think cinnamon and clove and nutmeg and those types of spices all mixed together. That's what I oftentimes get from a patchouli note. So this is no different. And then I can't believe that they give you some Rose Absolute oil, because that is not cheap. And that as well is just so beautiful. So this smells a little bit green, almost like the Whisper fragrance, that rose. So a young, dewy, fresh, plump rose. That's the vibe from this. Now, as far as the fragrance is concerned, I've never been so mesmerized by a bottle in my life. Like, this bottle is so freaking gorgeous. The cap is magnetic. It's a freaking work of art is what it is. Like, this, it's seriously the most beautiful bottle I've ever seen. And I saw these bottles online and I thought, like, who cares? Like, they're not that gorgeous. Like, yeah, they're pretty, but like, the feel of it, like the weight of it. Yes, you could use this as a weapon. It's so heavy, but seriously, such a gorgeous, gorgeous bottle. Thick, substantial, the cap magnetic. The cap is like a work of art. The whole thing is just beautiful. The whole presentation is gorgeous. So again, for me, thinking about a gorgeous Christmas present, I can't imagine someone being more thrilled than getting something like this. This fragrance it's so beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful, it could make me cry. You get this bright, beautiful rose on the opening. And it's so nuts because there is cardamom in here in the top, along with bergamot. I think what happens is the rose and the bergamot are what you first notice. So it smells really fresh, really voluminous, I guess would be the word I would use. Almost luminous. It feels bright. It actually feels kind of airy. I wouldn't say I get cardamom. Like, a lot of times I pick up cardamom right away. It smells kind of spicy, smells kind of green. Maybe the green aspect, but as this settles down, you get just a hint of that cardamom. It's very light though. In the heart of this fragrance, you have patchouli, creamy cafe latte, and longoza flower. Now, I believe longoza flower creates kind of a little bit of a bitter feel. I do get just a slight bit of bitter mixed with the sweet, but instead of it smelling like, ew, that smells bitter, it seems to just amplify the roundness of this fragrance. Like, it smells full and complete, not heavy in any way, just perfect. In the dry down, you have sandalwood, vanilla, and blonde woods. Now, I find that as this dries down, like the rose, like, you notice it more on the card, you notice that kind of latte feel. So there's somehow a milkiness in this fragrance. So basically what it feels like is you walk into a room where there's these beautiful kind of perfect roses that are kind of just lush and green and supple. And so you get this gorgeous rose smell, but then it's like you're walking through that into a coffee shop. So it starts off kind of fresh and beautiful. And then as it sits on the skin, it begins to morph, just an ever so slight hint of a milkiness. and some creamy kind of coffee, but it's not heavy coffee. So it's definitely present. So something like Intense Cafe, it's more of a sugar milky rose. This, I definitely get that hint of coffee. It's a stronger coffee note to me than what I notice in Intense Cafe by Montel, but it's mixed with this milkiness that definitely registers as kind of a little bit milky. So it doesn't feel like something like Blanche Bête, which to me is too milky, or even Les Vanille by Chabot. That to me is really, really milky. This is just slightly milk. It's like rose and some coffee and some spices have been steeped in milk. That's the vibe that I get. As this dries down, I start to get almost a caramel vibe with some woodiness, but the rose never completely disappears, although in the deep, deep dry down, I don't notice the rose anymore. Now, the longevity on this is insane. So I sprayed my neck and stuff like that. I sprayed my arm with it. I sprayed it in the morning, and I wanted to see just how long the fragrance would last. And I could smell it the next morning on my skin. So it wasn't projecting at that point, and that's when it smelled like kind of like almost like a slight coffee caramel. And it just smelled totally edible. I don't consider this fragrance a gourmand, but it definitely has gourmand aspects to it that make it very intriguing. The more that I wear this, the more I'm blown away, because it just morphs so much that it's the kind of fragrance that people that really start to delve into fragrance really enjoy, because it takes you on a journey. It's unique. It's nothing like I've smelt before. I'm in love with this fragrance. Like I feel like I got an award by getting this fragrance because it's so gorgeous. So it's so pricey, but I love it so much. I'm like, okay, I got to try more because they are really, really beautiful. So I was shocked. I get the hype now. I definitely get the hype, and I really like this. Now, this one is definitely rose-centric, so you have to like rose. It's unisex, but I would say it's unisex leaning ever so slightly feminine. I love it. It's the most unique rose fragrance I've smelt in a long time, because it's just, I don't know, somehow I just think it's different. It's different than any of the roses that I've smelt, and I've smelt a whole heck of a lot of rose. So all those other fragrances have similarities, and of course this has rose, but I just love the journey that it takes you on. To me, it almost feels like an illusion. So you think you're seeing a rose, and all of a sudden things start to swirl, and then all of a sudden it turns into this rosy, milky coffee drink, and then comes out this beautiful kind of caramel smell. And it just keeps on shifting and changing, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I love it. It's the kind of fragrance that I get excited to wear because it's something that's different. It reminds me of a movie. Like, it takes you on this cool ride that's just really, really sophisticated. So I'm into a sophisticated ride like that anytime. Like, seriously, I can see this fragrance becoming one of my favorites. The last thing that I'll say about Prodigy is my son, there are certain fragrances that he absolutely gravitates towards, mostly Soradora, Tom Ford Lost Cherry. The kid has expensive taste, and he rarely will say, "What are you wearing?" to me. But if he likes it, he'll go, "What are you wearing?" And so I had just put this fragrance on. I walked into the kitchen, and instantly he went, "What are you wearing?" And so I know that it's one of those fragrances. All the fragrances that he likes have a certain kind of rich, opulent quality to them. So that's just my kid's taste in fragrance. And this was one that instantly he needed to know the name of. So I know he's only 17, but he's got luxe taste, and this is one he definitely loved as well. And I couldn't believe he commented on it. I didn't think he would, because it was rose. So I was anticipating that he would find it too feminine, but as soon as he smelled it, he's like, "That is gorgeous." So just thought I'd put that in there so it wasn't just me that was feeling that way. my kid. And actually, we have similar taste as far as what really we enjoy. Mallow by Soradora, Red by Soradora, Broceliande by Soradora. Evidently, Prodigy by Mind Games is another one. Tom Ford Lost Cherry. He loves Baccarat Rouge. So he definitely likes the luxe fragrances, and this definitely caught his attention. Now, the other one, I just have a sample of it, is Mentor. It comes packaged the same way, but it comes in a black box. The fragrance, of course, has the dark bottle. Personally, I love that white bottle. And when I first sprayed the two of them, I sprayed both of them at the same time, I was actually disappointed in the rose one, and I was like, oh, I wish I would have gotten this one. It makes a little more sense right off the bat. This other one takes a little bit of time to kind of get into it and really experience it. Whereas this, I was like, oh, it's like those gourmands that I really enjoy, spicy gourmand. Now, the notes in Mentor were what really, really excited me about the fragrance. It has salted caramel, Italian lemon, and dark plum on the opening. In the heart, it has amber coffee and creme de cassis. And then the base is oud, sandalwood, and tonka bean. So definitely, like, those are the kind of notes that I am drawn to immediately, and I really enjoyed this fragrance. I didn't notice any lemon, but I definitely got a hint of plum with that salted caramel. But I definitely get that plummy, almost a little bit tart / dry, like tannins almost, which is probably the creme de cassis. As this dries down, I definitely get quite a lot of that coffee mixed with that amber. So it's kind of like a coffee caramel amber fragrance for the most part. I really, really enjoyed it. It smells dark. It smells perfect for fall and winter. Like, it's a very, very nice fragrance. This one is unisex, leaning slightly masculine, but just ever so slightly. It's more unisex than anything, but it's that kind of darker, sensual feel. So it's so weird because Mind Games has lots of those delicious kind of gourmand type notes, but I don't feel that it feels fully gourmand. So the notes are there, but there's enough of a woodiness in there that it doesn't feel like a typical kind of sweet gourmand. This one has a little bit of gourmand feel to it, especially in the dry down. I find out of the two of them, this to be the most unique, and I just love the way it develops. I just think it's really fascinating. And like I said, when I first sprayed this, I was disappointed because I'm like, it's another rose patchouli. But then the patchouli kind of dissipates, and I just think it's a fascinating fragrance. Definitely an enjoyable wear. I certainly wouldn't complain about Mentor, but out of the two, I prefer Prodigy. That said, I would love this on a guy. I would enjoy wearing this one too. So if you lean towards more of a sensual kind of caramel amber woody fragrance, this one is great. If you enjoy rose, but you want something a little different that you haven't smelt before, to me, Prodigy is the way to go. Again, as far as the presentation is concerned, it is so gorgeous. So though it's pricey, I think it would make an amazing Christmas present. Oh, such an amazing Christmas present. So those are my thoughts. Just a reminder, they are having a sale, 30% off, I believe, on So Avant-Garde. I believe Mind Games, the website there, is having a sale as well. And I have a 10% off coupon. If you are interested in purchasing anything, please feel free to check out the links down below and use my coupon code. And basically, check out So Avant-Garde. They've got so many fragrances to choose from, so many delightful niche fragrances. It just makes me so excited. So anyway, those are my takes on these fragrances. If you've tried them, please weigh in and let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. And other than that, have an amazing week, and we'll talk to you soon.